Welcome back to another module of CAT125R, where we'll be focusing on intellectual property. It might not seem like it, but we're actually entering the home stretch of the course as we start thinking about the final collaborative assignment about intellectual property. At this point in the course, you'll notice that many of the interviews with faculty experts are listed as optional for further viewing. We encourage you to visit this content, but at this point we want to encourage you to explore and curate your own materials as you start to think about your online presence and your own publication efforts. You'll get to hear me sing this week in my lectures about intellectual property, and for that I apologize. But I hope that you'll learn some interesting things about the legal history of these complicated issues around fair use, public domain, and different forms of critical making. Many of you are probably already aware of the hazards of collective authorship. In the case of, say, a Turnitin.com paper that indicates that the student is patch writing because the composition is actually cobbled together from a variety of online sources. But it's also important to be mindful of the benefits of collective authorship. Isaac Newton has a wonderful quotation where he says, "If I have seen further than others, it is by standing upon the shoulders of giants." And indeed, these questions about open access and shared intellectual property are very important in the sciences, and one might argue in many other fields as well. We'll be talking about the ethics of citation in this unit. And that's why I'm excited to start introducing the material about how to use Storify. Storify is an online platform that allows you to actually integrate different kinds of sources and curate them. And that includes scholarly journal articles, as well as videos, tweets, and other forms of social media. You can see that Storify lets you enter search terms and filter information. It's often able to take advantage of what might be called social bookmarking technologies. It allows you to select from a variety of sources. It has a drag and drop storyboard that you can work with. And you'll be able to kind of add context to your text by using its menu of tools. You can see some interesting samples from other collaborative groups who've taken 125R when they ask questions like, what is intellectual property in the age of the internet? You'll find projects like this Storify about intellectual property in visual arts, asking what it means for artists to appropriate media from other artists. You'll also see certain examples that take advantage of the how-to format that we'll be talking about as we wrap up our Ignite style speeches, like this group project about how to publish remixed music properly. And you'll also see examples of Storify that take advantage of exploring how media phenomena might travel across different contexts. So for example, how are fan-created music covers and parodies regulated on the internet? It deals with the question of how media might cross different kinds of boundaries as they travel from user to user, and how those acts of transmission and translation are regulated. So certainly Storify has become an important tool for journalists. Particularly as journalists are asking if journalism could be creation and if curation can be a kind of journalism. So for example, there's a nice model from the Sacramento Bee, which is a traditional newspaper still, with a very robust website where they've published an interesting Storify about vaccinations in California, where they examine legislation, news, and analysis. You'll also see some interesting examples of Storify where journalists are actually responding to social media surrounding their stories. So it's kind of a story within a story within a story. So Storify can be used to tell individual stories. It's nicely designed for you to curate, say, a particular experience that you might have had in a foreign country. Or in the case of this work, it's also possible to curate, say, a body of poems, as in the case of these poems by Adrienne Rich. But Storify can also be very powerful for telling social stories. And so that's one of the things that we're going to be encouraging you to do as you collaborate with each other, is think about the social dimension of publication. And as we move into the unit beyond this one, which is about collaboration, we're going to be going back to some of the material that we talked about in Unit 2 about feedback and about how to create a community of practice when we go back to thinking about how this can function as a kind of connected course. So I look forward to seeing you in my office hours. I encourage you to email, and I hope that you have a wonderful week. Bye.